Hi, today on Business Talk, we're going to explore about UK's partnership with Southeast Asian nations. Today, I got a very special guest today. He's the Lord Mayor of the City of London, Michael Mannerlin. Michael is not only the permanent figure in London's financial services, but he also the co-founder of the CEGEN, a leading think tank that improve the society by improved finance and technology. Let's talk to him now. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today.
Well, absolutely delighted to be here in Laos at the ASEAN conference. It's a really exciting time for us.
And welcome to Laos. Before we go through our topic today, would you mind just share with our audiences about the rules of the Lord Mayor of London and what's your priorities?
Well, the Lord Mayor of London is one of the oldest positions in the world. It dates back to 1189, so 835 years, and I am the 695th Lord Mayor. But actually the mayoral position is more recent. The Lord Mayor is the leader for 1 year only of the City of London Corporation, and we govern the square mile of the city. We're actually a workers and residents cooperative, which has been holding elections continuously since the middle of the 7th century, so we're nearly 1,400 years old. And that gives us a long-term perspective. Our workers have the vote in the city, so they tell us what to do as the people running the city. And we traditionally have really 3 areas that we're always focused in over centuries. We really want open markets and free trade. We need access to the best talents and skills globally. And we like to ensure that there's rule of law, legal frameworks, contract certainty, and dispute resolution, because these are the things that make trade flow. And when trade flows, we are successful and our partners across the world are successful.
Beautiful. And the City of London is the financial hub.
The City of London is very much the leading center in the world, but my private firm runs the Global Financial Centres Index in London, always tops as the leading global hub, actually well ahead of centers such as New York or Tokyo or Beijing. But it is important to note that our 615,000 workers are about 1/3 finance, 1/3 science, engineering, and technology, and 1/3 areas like education, shipping, arts, media, culture. So these all come together. We're about 2% of the UK's working population and generate arguably 7 to 9% of the UK GDP. So it's a very strong pocket kind of battleship.
Very nice, very nice. And it's our pleasure today to having you discuss on our topic today. Since you are here in Laos to join the kind of ASEAN meeting, would you mind just sharing with us about why ASEAN is a key focus for UK and how does the UK perceive our region ASEAN?
Well, the UK's view is obviously worldwide, and you can look at various blocks. You've got North America, our immediate neighbors in the EU, but Indo-Pacific region is absolutely crucial, and ASEAN is an immense focal point in that. The 10 nations of ASEAN are very important. We are, of course, thrilled. The talk in London is on the 15th of December. We're joining the CPTPP with many of the ASEAN nations, and this, I think, underscores what we're trying to achieve, which is to be very bound into the region and assist the region in just what I said earlier, which is very much open trade, very much the concepts of skills and also the idea of international rules of law and standards. Economically, 47.2, I think was the number I was given, pounds of trade flowed both ways, and that's up 5% from last year. But the potential in ASEAN, as you know, is enormous. And so our government is doing many things, but we, the City of London, are an independent body as well. A Lord Mayor will typically travel for 100 days, making connections. My theme this year is Connect to Prosper, and I'm trying to celebrate the many knowledge miles that run through what we call the Square Mile. That's our nickname for the city, which I also like to call the world's coffee house. So I'm also here on a coffee mission to get some Laotian and Vietnamese coffee into our system. But when you look at it that way, this year, 3 of my 25 visits will be to ASEAN, 8 or 9 to our neighbors in Europe. So I think that underscores the importance. Our Minister for Government, Minister Alexander, has also been here in Laos the day before yesterday, etc. We've seen a whole bunch of agreements. In fact, my team and I came to Laos via Vietnam, where we had been in Ho Chi Minh City, signing an agreement on education between City St. George and the British University of Vietnam. We went up to Hanoi to have a whole series of meetings with ministers on green finance, again on education, on financial structuring and trade. So our commitment to ASEAN is deep and real and long term. And the opportunity and the kindness that's been extended to attend this conference is much appreciated.
Thank you. But in what way that UK can bring some benefits to Southeast Asia, and how us as this region can reciprocate about this?
Well, this is going to sound a bit airy-fairy, but the truth is, we've learned over the centuries, particularly since the middle of the 16th century, that open and honest commerce with all works. In fact, I'm a member of our livery company, and one of my mother livery is the World Traders. We actually have a livery company out of the 111 devoted to trade, and I was master there. And we use a phrase that Thomas Jefferson used back in 1802, which is commerce and honest friendship with all. And if you trade with each other, then you begin to have friendship. And if you trade with each other equally and under a rule of law where you treat all comers fairly, you will succeed and thrive. And we wish to share that experience with ASEAN, and then it comes back to those pillars I spoke about earlier. So in our terms, what we can afford ASEAN is very much in education. There's been a tremendous amount of education, not just British education. The second thing we can do is things like international standards to do with trade, both digital trade is very important to us. And I have two projects on at the moment. One on smart economies networks, where we're working with a number of countries, particularly in the Nordic regions, on trade documentation. We're equally interested in the future of AI, as everybody is, artificial intelligence.
Very big thing.
Yeah. Our concern, though, is that many of the regulations that might be coming through will become frictional and not assist trade. So we're promoting an international standard called 42001, saying, could nations please use that to regulate it so we can be interoperable with each other. So digital trade is crucial to us. And then when it comes to sustainability, well, we're very committed to a sustainable world. In fact, this year we've been tackling all 17 development goals and events, workshops, and online sessions. But we're also equally concerned. We helped create the carbon trading markets back in the 80s and 90s. So that's how long our concerns have been going. We would like to see that move forward. And finance, which is, of course, one of our great specialties, has a fundamental role there. And I know you have some experience in that space as well.
Yes, I am. Nice. Thank you for sharing with us about this, because it's very important to learning from each other. Like as you mentioned, UK has a long history experiences about this thing that you just mentioned, and we'd love to learn more about the UK as well. Last few years, we have heard quite a big news that mentioning about the Brexit. So it's quite a big news from the last few years. Could you please sharing with us about what impact has Brexit had on London's status as a global financial hub?
Well, I could talk about Brexit for ages. And to be clear, the population that I represent voted 70% to 30% to remain in the EU. But that's history. It's gone. It's now just over 8 years. It was in June 2016 that the vote was taken. And so we're speaking here 8 years later. What's actually happened? Well, the amazing thing is our position has improved. Yes, so remember I said earlier that workers have the vote, so we count them very carefully. And we had 525,000 workers in the city in 2016, and we now have 615,000. So we've gone up 90,000 workers, nearly 15%. So it's gone very, very well in that level. Now, you're in the banking sector, so you're wondering if this is all in compliance. No, it's not. At the time of Brexit, we had approximately 11% of global assets under management being managed by 1% of the world's population, and it's now 13%. So actually, the perception of London as an independent entity, being able to provide the best advice to people honest advice has improved. We did lose some jobs, without question, but the funny bit is it's a net 90,000 increase. Some people estimate we may have lost as many as almost 40,000 jobs, but that means we created 130,000. So we're thriving. It's also, I think, led to some really good shake-up, making people think very carefully about where they're providing financial services, where they're adding value. So Brexit, we may well have done much better without it, but we've done fine with it.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing with us. Since you are in Laos this time for joining many of the ASEAN meetings here, could you please just tell us about the outline of the UK government's agenda for the ASEAN Economic Ministers meeting, especially in Laos here, and as well as the related events that are going to happen?
The answer is a straight no. I can't tell you the UK government's position because we're not the UK government. We really are an independent entity, but I can tell you what we're out to achieve.
Yes, please.
So one thing we're trying to do, and this is a wonderful opportunity here in Laos to meet as many different nations as we can. The schedule, I think, gets us to meet just about everybody amongst the 10. And of course, for us, economic ministers are almost the perfect group to meet with because we can talk business, finance, and economics. We've started the day with a whole series of meetings. We've got several coming up. Very much looking forward to meeting Indonesia later today, but we began with Malaysia. We've met with Laos, and we're hoping to cover all of them. The program is broadly what I outlined earlier, that we're really looking at three areas, very much the sustainable finance, very much the digital area, and very much education. And within sustainable finance, the wider growth of finance into areas that are at an early stage here in ASEAN. I might pick, for example, reinsurance or the state of the carbon markets. These are things where we feel we can help guide people, give them our experience, which includes our mistakes. Nothing's perfect. And so we're quite excited, but that's our program as the City of London.
Nice, nice. As ASEAN, in your perspective, how would you assess ASEAN economic growth, and what measures do you need to sustain this success?
Well, ASEAN has clearly been successful, but it's at a very early stage. During my lifetime, I watched the EU move through, when it was the EC, the Maastricht agreements, so I've seen that progress. And I see ASEAN at a relatively early stage on that journey, but firmly committed to it. So I can see continuing development. So the growth has been fantastic. I think the question becomes, what can we do to increase that rate of growth? And I believe from what I've been meeting the ministers so far, and from what I've seen in the program, that particularly the commitment to digital is crucial, which reduces a tremendous number of trade barriers. And it's interesting that we are working on digital as well, maybe at a slightly more advanced level. We want to share that and make that open and interoperable across all regions, but it would be great to do that with ASEAN. I think the second thing has been the concern at how do we get finance going? That's both trade finance, which is not growing as quickly as the trade is. So that's clearly an area of minor concern. But in other areas, I mentioned more advanced products like reinsurance. But what are we doing in ASEAN to build up, the pensions, the savings, the insurances? Because this is what creates the monies that become part of the asset management industry, which goes back into ASEAN to help ASEAN get the capital to grow. As I often say, people spend a lot of time on foreign direct investment or multilateral development agency monies. These are tiny. The money will ultimately have to come from the people themselves developing their own savings programs. If you look in my lifetime, certainly one of the great wonder stories has been China, where we've seen a huge fraction of the world's population emerge from poverty. I don't think there was a single British banker out there digging all those roads or building those high-speed railways. It was all done by the Chinese themselves. And we would like to assist that by making sure that ASEAN doesn't have any impediments to speeding up its rate of growth.
Nice. Since you mentioned a lot about the project that UK interested in ASEAN, if I may ask, in which country in ASEAN that UK want to prioritize
Prioritize.
or viewing as having the most potential for the long-term collaboration with UK?
I think there's a great variety amongst the 10, aren't there? Obviously, Indonesia, just by sheer size and potential, is going to be an important market. But I've just come from Vietnam with 100 million. We've got the Philippines out there. That's if you go by size. I have a particular soft spot for Singapore, and as tiny as it is, there's a lot that we learn from Singapore in how to manage things, and it's a natural hub. We are also a shipping center. In fact, although we don't have a port any longer, unlike Singapore, or Hong Kong or what have you, actually 30,000 of our 615,000 people work in shipping, so it's 5% of our work, and that's shipping services. And then if you add shipping insurance in, we are the world's largest shipping center by miles, and we're looking at how that develops across ASEAN. And then you've got obviously a lot of smaller countries, Laos, etc. But I look at ASEAN probably with a rose-tinted view that 30 years from now it will bear many resemblances to the way the EU works, and we work very, very well across all 27 nations of the EU, and I'm hoping we work equally well amongst the 10 or possibly more nations of ASEAN in the future.
Thank you so much, sir, for answering all these questions, and thank you so much for joining us today and joining our program today. Thank you.
Okay.
And that was our conversation with the Lord Mayor of the City of London, Michael Mainelli, on UK's partnership with ASEAN. And you can stay with us, you can connect it with us online through Instagram and YouTube. Our handle at the C Today News, and we are also available ctodaynews.com. I am Dalapet Seng Sulevong. Let's stay connected, and goodbye for now.
Bye.